Hey you guys, it's John. Sorry I'm kind of on the go in shooting this video, but I have a new video. It's kind of like the longer one I did, that's an hour and a half, but this is more of a summary. So it's titled Ways That the Playbook Grooms Children and Why It Should Be Banned. So I want to give you a heads up first that you must be over 18 to view this video, and a trigger warning that graphic sexual and mental health related language is used in this video. This video is made to expose grooming in the Playbook, which is a book distributed by the Children's Hospital to youth in Los Angeles. If any of this video is triggering for you as an adult, imagine how triggering it is for the youth. First of all, here's the proof that it's made for youth. It states on page 7 that it was created by the LA Children's Hospital Division of Adolescent Young Adult Medicine with guidance from members of the Youth Community Advisory Board with funds by the LA County Department of Public Health to target youth who identify on the masculine spectrum. And I expose it here so that taxpayers can be informed about the fact that their money is going towards grooming male youth. I wonder why the contracts number through which the book was made using taxpayer money is strategically placed on the very last page of the book in the tiniest font. Are they trying to hide the fact that the Playbook was made using LA net county costs? I also find it problematic that in mentioning the book targets youth, they fail to mention the specific ages that they target. Is age strategically left out so they can expand the book's target audience to the youngest members within the definition of youth? Also, my intention is not to paint the LGBT community in a bad light, but simply to judge the contents of this book. I also don't want to make this political, as stopping grooming should be the one thing that all parties agree on, but at the same time we know what party all of these people vote for, because the state, the city, the county, and all of its departments vote only one way. These people who have been running the show for decades are steeped in corruption. Is there a reason that they all vote one way? And for those who say that there's no agenda on the kids, it's clear here that there is an agenda, and specifically in targeting young boys. This should be the #1 news story, yet no one is talking about or reporting on this. I hope more informants and whistleblower employees or youth victims of this book step up and speak up. I can't be the only victim of grooming by the city of LA and by the Children's Hospital. So here's the proof that there is an agenda on youth, and my list of the ways that the city of LA grooms children through the Playbook and why the book should be banned. I have uploaded a longer version as well on my channel that's 1.5 hours long, so this is a summarized shorter version. The Playbook is full of unhealthy dating practices and full of pornographic and sexually explicit images that contribute to the pornification, the objectification, the sexualization, and the traumatization of youth in our society and culture. On the cover and on the last page, there are dildos, eggplants, condoms, butt plugs, photos of a foot to show a foot fetish, and we see a photo of a cell phone with the words, quote, "fuck me," close quote, written on it under an image of 4 penises. For those of you who don't know, an eggplant is a symbolic of a penis. 2, it promotes the use of hookup apps by stating, quote, "Fortunately, apps have made finding someone to hook up with easier and quicker." It grooms youth to be promiscuous by using fun-looking cartoon graphics and imagery, appealing fonts and colors, and catchy phrases to paint hookup culture as fun, all under the guise of sex positivity. And it mentions sex positivity on page 7, and this is a tactic that is used by groomers, presenting something as appealing and fun through sex positivity. You can see this particularly in the glossary section on pages 49 to 51, which includes example definitions for the word, quote, "thirsty," close quote, defining it as, quote, "an intense feeling of wanting, or in some cases need, for sexual gratification. And this is simply put as being extremely horny," close quote. Painting promiscuous sex as a need rather than a want is grooming. Next is the phrase power top and power bottom. It defines it as, quote, "either a top or bottom that enjoys control and dominance during sex. They are usually in the, quote, power position," close quote. And then the abbreviation DTF. Someone may ask if, this is their quotation, Someone may ask if you are DTF, which is short for down to fuck, close quote. Other phrases while texting that it promotes are quote, looking, question mark, close quote, quote, wanna see my nudes, question mark, close quote, and quote, send dick or whole pic, close quote. The playbook creators may claim that teaching this lexicon is educating youth in a way that makes them aware of what kind of phrases they will encounter, but the fact of the matter is that the playbook shows its true intention of grooming in its presentation of this lexicon with appealing graphics and language where it is clearly promoting the types of behaviors in the lexicon. Therefore, this is sex promotion, not a sex education. My third point, it recommends that youth try out every single one of the many sexual positions that are depicted in the images by stating, quote, the only way to figure out what position works is to try them out, close quote. And it graphically depicts each position: missionary, bend over position, facing up position, cowboy position, reverse cowboy, sideways position, 69 position, face squatting, head position, and a dangerous position called Patrick Swayze position, where one partner has to lift up their partner to their face. Most adults don't know half of these positions, so why would youth have to learn these? It therefore instructs and coaches them exactly what to do sexually, taking away their own ability to have authentic sexual expression, thus diminishing their creativity and fantasy and limiting them sexually. 5. The book recommends and promotes irresponsible sex through the exploration of kinks and paraphilias like dirty talk during sex by calling each other, quote, slut, whore, and cum dump. And by the way, dirty talk is a phrase that the book promotes. They use that phrase, dirty talk. So they say, and then also they promote the acting out roleplay scenarios like daddy and son. It fails to mention the negative mental health effects when this degrading language is internalized by sexual partners or by the self. So it's telling youth, call your partner a cum dump, call them a daddy, call them a slut, call them a whore. This is a direct quotation from the book. 2, it promotes mutual masturbation, hand jobs, foot jobs, and using ASMR, which it defines as autonomous sensory meridian response methods, such as specifically, quote, whispering in your partner's ear, making slurping and sucking sounds. This is a quote from the book. It's telling these youth to whisper in their partner's ear and make slurping and sucking noises. 3, it promotes BDSM through the promotion of sexual spanking. It normalizes fisting and mentions it 2 times, and also deep throating, fingering, and rimming, which it describes as, quote, eating the booty like groceries or whatever you call it, close quote. That's how this book describes what rimming is, and it promotes that. It's I think the more official term is called cunnilingus, but it promotes this practice. It promotes this practice in addition to promoting fisting, which is essentially when you put your entire fist or your entire arm up to the elbow or up to the shoulder inside another person's butthole. And it also promotes deep throating. And deep throating is oral sex where the penis is where somebody sucks the other person's penis all the way and in a deep and rough way. In addition, it promotes frottage or dry humping against any body part of one's sexual partner, including, quote, rubbing a dick between someone's thighs or chest and against their genitals, close quote. Next, it tells youth to try out sexual choking by using their hands or tightening a belt around their neck to choke oneself or their partner for more pleasurable masturbation. It even includes a warning of bodily harm and death. So it's telling them to choke themselves and their partner using their hands or their belt, and it includes a death warning and a warning of bodily harm, essentially telling them, you can do this if you want. Next, it normalizes and recommends scat play, which is essentially poop play and eating poop. It mentions this word, it doesn't use that word, but it mentions this practice 3 times, and I'll give you the examples. So it talks about poop extensively and having sex with unclean bodies, exposing to youth to the bacteria and fecal matter. It specifically states, quote, some people like the taste of an undouched butthole. Sorry, I'm pausing. There's just some people walking by or driving by, so I have to pause to wait until they leave my area. But basically, they say, quote, "Some people like the taste of an undouched butthole," close quote. It tells youth to ask their partner, quote, "Do you like mouthfucking unwashed or washed bodies?" Close quote. And it states, quote, "Some people like the taste of odorless washed skin, while others enjoy the taste of an unwashed hole or dick. Oral pleasure should be fun and tasty either way." Close quote. It also states, quote, "Your butthole is multi-purpose since you use it to poop and as a hole for anal play. Some people choose to clean out their butt before anal sex because poop can kill the mood. Others are not worried. Because poop can kill the mood. Others are not worried because it is natural to have poop coming out of your butthole and they might be into it." Close quote. This is all real stuff. I'm not making any of this stuff up. This and the much talk about anal play in the book creates the idea to youth that anal play is necessitated and is normal, regular, and required sex in order to have fun. It even says that when sexting, which is texting each other nude photos, when sexting and taking butthole pictures to, quote, "Think about how you want it to look," about how you want your butthole to look. Quote, "If you're looking to show a clean butthole, then look out for any residue or toilet paper," close quote. I have a question to ask. Why are they so obsessed with poop? This is what my question is. Next, it promotes sexting and even allows for youth to send nude photos of one's sexual partner to other people or to other sexual partners outside of the texting relationship between two people. This is incredibly problematic, particularly because in promoting sexting to youth, it completely fails to inform them about sextortion and sexual blackmail, which are all incredibly common these days and they are the cause of a host of teen suicides around the country. In general, and also it's just inappropriate. It does mention getting consent from your sexual partner to send their nudes, but it's still an inappropriate thing to send somebody's photos to other sex partners of yours. Next, in general, I want to make the point here that when it promotes hookup culture, other than within the context of racial discrimination, it never ever discusses the negative mental health effects like suicidality, depression, anxiety, OCD, low self-esteem, the high prevalence of sex addiction, porn addiction, the prevalence of rape, sexual abuse, grooming, and predation on hookup apps and cruising locations. And also, it just doesn't talk about all the psychopaths that are on there, the narcissists, all these manipulative types of people, the cheaters, people not disclosing to their partners that they're hooking up and going to parks to cruise, all this stuff, and we know that there's so many people on hookup apps who are cheating on their partners, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, whatever. And also, it doesn't talk about how hookup culture and the porn industry is highly enmeshed and inseparable from the human sex trafficking industry, and it completely fails to include resources on where to report rape or sexual abuse. Next, another major failure of the playbook is that it completely fails to mention what the legal age of consent is in the United States. This is proof to me that the main goal and intention of the creators is not sex education, but it is grooming, because if you fail to disclose or mention the age that one can legally have sex at, you are essentially grooming by omission or by silence on the most important aspect of sex education, and also opening the floodgates to allow youth to have sex at any age or with any age. On a similar note, I wonder why the playbook fails to ever mention abstinence or holding off from sex at first in order to get to know someone first, or to know them deeply, or to develop commitment, or to withhold sex initially, or to practice abstinence. The default of the playbook is almost always promiscuity and the promotion of having as many sexual experiences and as many sexual partners as possible. So it's basically casual sex rather than the building of lasting long-term relationships. This is also shown by the fact that anytime the phrase sexual partner is mentioned, it always includes parentheses, plural S, after to signify multiple sex partners. Anytime you see the word partner, it always will have a parenthesis, S close parenthesis after to signify that you're playing with multiple partners. Next, the playbook includes the word PNP, which stands for party and play, yet the playbook fails to include any commentary regarding PNP or to mention the high prevalence of drugs within chemsex hookup culture in the gay community and the risks that are associated with chemsex. Simply stating PNP without addressing the negative side effects of chemsex can automatically suppose that the book condones PNP. 10. It gives douching tips like using enemas, inducing bowel movements, doing colon cleansing and deep cleaning to prepare for fisting. That's, again, fisting, you guys. And it says douching before going out to the club or on a date so that one is ready to have sex right after with a stranger. The book says this. That's a quotation. It tells you to douche and then go out to the club or go on a date, and that way you're ready to have sex after with that. If you're out at the club, you're with a stranger, right? Next, it has actual sections titled Tips for Eating Ass, that's in quotes, and, quote, Tips for Sucking Dick and Improving Your Oral Skills, close quote, where it states during a blowjob, quote, if your jaw gets tired of sucking, licking can give you a break while not interrupting the job, close quote. It glorifies inappropriate words like the word bussy, which is short for boy pussy. It uses that word. It is sexually reductionistic in reducing youth to their sexual position, describing and categorizing them with identity nouns by their sexual position, such as tops, bottoms, verse, power bottoms, or power tops, without viewing each other holistically as multi-dimensional individuals with a body, a soul, and a spirit. Essentially, it contributes to the reduction of youth to their genitals and to their bodies, and this is known as genitalization. It contributes tremendously to size shaming by promoting the words hung penis, which is a penis above a certain size, and in a section titled, quote, sizing up, close quote, it recommends whole training and whole stretching, and the playbook defines as, quote, stretching the whole to take bigger dicks or objects, close quote. And it states, quote, some people may require whole training to handle larger dicks or objects, close quote. It recommends that more experienced youth can, quote, use larger dildos, close quote. It recommends investing in certain lubes for sizing up and using toys to stretch a hole in preparation for sex. And it states that, quote, butt plugs are a great way to train the hole to take bigger dicks and to take different objects in it, close quote. It even states, quote, you can insert a butt plug and go about your day for constant pleasure while training your hole, close quote. It recommends doing Kegel exercises to tighten the pelvic floor muscles as a, quote, simple way to keep your hole tight, but also being able to relax your hole to get pounded, close quote. Worst of all, it recommends that more experienced youth can, quote, use larger dildos, close quote. 15. More with regard to size shaming. Shaming penis size also encourages body dysmorphia because of the insecurity that the vast majority of men feel with their penis size. We know this because several gay men get penis enlargement surgeries or use penis enlargement products like Viagra pills or get Brazilian butt lifts to emphasize their butt. Worst of all, the playbook encourages editing photos, which also contributes to genital size shaming, body shaming, and body dysmorphia. When referring to nude photos, it states, quote, edit your photos by adding grain effect or blurring to create smooth lines and giving a soft focus effect in their nudes, close quote. It states ways of positioning the body or trimming the bush to make, that's the pubic hair, to make the dick and the ass both look bigger in size in one's nude photos, specifically stating, quote, try trimming around the base of your dick to make it look larger, close quote. Size shaming is unacceptable, and the focus again on the importance of the look of the genitals also reduces youth to their genitals. Under the, quote, thirst trap, quote, close quote section, it says, thirst trap, okay? It says, quote, how do you want your junk to look? If clean, then groom that area. If you want to show off your size, then try taking a picture of your hard dick next to an object such as a remote control to give a size reference. Close quote. Using objects as size references are again contributing to the culture of size shaming. It encourages youth to use the time feature on their phone for taking nude selfies from a distance. It further size shames youth by stating ways to, quote, enhance the look of your butt. Try playing around with strategically placing your hand right above your butt, close quote. Or, quote, taking a picture in the bathroom mirror with your butt cheeks resting on top of the sink counter, close quote. For those of you who don't really understand what that means, it means sit when you're taking sexting a nude photo to someone, put your butt cheeks, rub them, place them against the sink counter in your bathroom, and that'll sort of plump up the butt cheeks or emphasize them when you're taking the nude photo. This is horrendous stuff, you guys. Why are the creators of the playbook so obsessed with maximizing the size of youth genitals and making sure that youth project the size of their genitals to their sexual partners? Next, it recommends that youth use DIY, that's you do it yourself, objects such as dildos, and it includes, to use DIY objects as dildos, and it includes a photo of a butt with a carrot inside of it, thus encouraging youth to stick random items up their butthole without warning them about the harms of infection if not disinfected properly, and also about the health risks from medical accidents that happen from suction issues in the colon by foreign objects. It encourages blasphemy by stating God is a bottom, but when it states, quote, bottoming is work, but putting in work can help a bottom maximize their pleasure and make the top believe that God is a bottom, close quote. In other words, God himself is the submissive partner within a gay relationship. 18. The playbook downplays, redefines, and directly attacks monogamy and instead actively and directly positively promotes non-monogamy, and it distorts the definition and meaning of monogamy. It does this by coaching youth to open up their relationship to other partners and thus transitioning from monogamous relationships to open relationships instead of encouraging them to work out their differences within traditional monogamy. It does all of this by including many specific leading questions that partners should ask their partner or partners. It states, quote, if you are in a monogamous relationship, you should allow space to discuss expectations free of judgment, close quote. And it includes tips for navigating monogamy, like, quote, discuss what you need to keep your sex life exciting. Do you want to watch porn together? Are you making alone time to masturbate? Will you invite others in your sex life? Or do you want to keep it exclusive? If things should change and you or your partner want to open the relationship, then think about what that looks like. Discuss it openly and honestly and come to a mutual agreement, close quote. All of those were direct quotes in the book. And they make it all sound so nice, right? It says, discuss it openly and honestly, right? Come to a mutual agreement, right? It all sounds nice. But we know what this leads to. It leads to the corruption of the relationship. And these aren't going to last. Within some months, these people will be with other people, and they're setting themselves up for just long-term non-monogamy, and also for an incredible forever of just a life of loneliness where they don't have a partner. Shouldn't LA County be promoting exclusive and monogamous relationships first? Why is all of this not just normalized but considered the default? Furthermore, the monogamy section is a small portion compared to the non-monogamy section, which includes relationships, open relationships, polyamory, and a fuck buddy relationship. Why doesn't the book make an effort to promote or elevate monogamy? Even within the monogamy section, the playbook diminishes traditional monogamy even further by stating that, quote, monogamy can be interpreted differently by different people. For some people, monogamy means staying away from porn, and for others, it may look like being open to having sex with other people together as a couple. Others might interpret monogamy as using a condom when having sex with other people that are not their partner. So it's saying that all of those things are monogamy. How is that monogamy if you're having sex with other people? How is that monogamy? The next section on open relationships defines it as, quote, relationships where you and your primary partner have sex outside of your relationships, close quote. And it recommends that youth, quote, chat with your partner about what you need to feel safe, such as getting tested for STIs, that's sexually transmitted infections, or for HIV regularly, wearing condoms when having sex with others, or not having sex in your shared space. Be transparent with non-primary sexual partners about your relationship status so as not to confuse or mislead them. Then for polyamory, quote, polyamory allows you to have your different wants and needs met by different partners, not just one, close quote. Then it defines fuck buddies, or what it calls FB, as, quote, someone who you have sex with regularly without being in a committed relationship, close quote. And it says, quote, having a fuck buddy can be a great way to be intimate with someone you know and are comfortable with without the pressure of commitment, close quote. One of the worst things of the playbook is that it monetizes youth sexuality, youth bodies, youth identities, and youth's pockets through the promotion of products and services like specific condoms, specific types of lube, the use of sex toys like butt plugs, dildos, anal beads, vibrators, and specific types of cock rings. All of those are mentioned in this book. Worst of all, it encourages the commodification and pornification of youth bodies by equating hookup sex to buying a product online and equating nude photos to reading product reviews, stating direct quote, taking, sending, and receiving nude pictures is a large part of hookup culture. Think of it as the photo reviews on a product to help you decide if you want to buy it, close quote. To further the monetization of youth sexuality, it promotes the medical industrial complex to create lifelong prescription medication customers and promotes the medicalization of youth through pills like HIV prevention, pills like daily PrEP, that's pre-exposure prophylaxis, and PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis pills, telling youth in the health section on page 36 to go to www.getprepla.com/centers of excellence for resources to get on PrEP. And it also promotes health screenings like prostate screening, cervical screening, testicular screening, colon screening, pap smears, and STI screenings, telling them to get tested for gonorrhea every 3 to 6 months, chlamydia every 3 to 6 months, HIV every 3 to 6 months, hepatitis A and B if they're not already vaccinated for those, and based on symptoms, also to get tested for HPV, which is human papillomavirus, also to get tested for genital herpes, and also for pubic lice if there's symptoms. So it's telling them do all of these things. If it's telling them to go get tested for gonorrhea, chlamydia, and HIV every 3 to 6 months, that must mean that these youth that this book is targeting and is trying to get them to be as sexual as possible, they're going to be hooking up with hundreds of people per month easily. That's nothing. If you need to get tested every 3 months, we're talking about very high body counts for sex partners. Next, I just want to say the whole book is written within the context that many of the youth reading the book have had transgender sex change surgeries and have already received or receive hormone replacement therapies. And the book is essentially creating lifelong hormone prescription customers. I should mention as well that the Children's Hospital who published this book, it performs all of the transgender surgeries on children in its building on Wilshire Boulevard in LA. I'm not trying to discredit transgender identities and transgender youth. I simply believe that there is an overdiagnosis of transgender youth and not a thorough enough standardized scrutinization assessments of transgender youth who almost always have co-occurring mental health conditions, such as autism. If higher assessment standards were in place and there wasn't a race to perform surgeries on children due to the lucrative market for these surgeries out of the self-interests of doctors' pockets, then we would see less youth and adults detransitioning. In several cases of transgender children detransitioning as children or as adults, it was concluded that they were simply gay, bi, or lesbian, and therefore waiting to mature through puberty could have alleviated the risks involved with performing surgeries such as necessitated dilation for life, prescription of hormones for life, infertility, and hypoactive sexual disorder that some detransitioners have experienced, or not detransitioners, but those who have transitioned, transgender individuals. Next, it promotes meeting strangers for sex without mentioning the risks of human trafficking, thus minimizing the safety threats of meeting strangers. When it should be recommending not to meet up with strangers, it instead states, quote, "It can be exciting to hook up with a stranger," close quote. It begins the grooming from the very beginning of the book by giving a definition of hooking up as, quote, "Looking for a partner such as a random person that you meet on a hookup app or a regular fuck buddy that you hit up for a good time," close quote. This is the language of positive promotion, coaching, and grooming. It further promotes meeting strangers through the illegal behavior of public cruising, telling youth to go to specific places like, quote, "public spaces, parks, glory holes, gyms, alleys, clubs, bathhouses, etc., close quote, and to look, quote, look for local bathhouses that are known as hookup spots, to ask people in your social networks, to download apps that are specifically made for cruising, to find a queer-friendly gym that is known to be a hot spot for hookups, to look for a men's-only spa that is catered to cruising, to look for any local adult video stores that are known for cruising," close quote. It's telling them to do all of those things. It's funny how it encourages this way, speaking to people on social media networks where we know that there are predators, groomers, and creeps lurking, waiting to groom children. It's telling them, go to your social networks, ask people where the cruising happens so that you can go there. And we know that there's creeps and predators all over social media channels, all over all the different apps. They're on TikTok, they're on Kik, they're on WhatsApp, they're on Telegram. But it's just telling them, go ahead, talk to any contacts you have on your social media, right? It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and it also fails to disclose to youth that hookup apps show the location of youth on a map and on a grid using GPS location, which is very dangerous for their safety. This is true. A lot of people don't know this. But anyone who is on these apps, they can see how close the youth is to the person, the predator, and they can also see them on a grid and on a map. And it will even show to the smallest foot their location. If they're 1 foot away, if the predator lives on top of that youth, it's going to show 1 foot away. So essentially, if a predator drives up to one of these youth's homes, first of all, it can find how close it is, right? It's just a matter of distance. So if they drive up, they're going to know where the youth lives, right? The playbook puts youth in very risky situations, and worst of all is that it directly states famous cruising spots in Los Angeles to go to cruise at, including the names of places such as Slammer, which is a popular membership-based LA sex club where condoms are almost never used, Midtown Spa, which is an LA gay sex sauna and bathhouse. It's now closed, but it was known to be very sleazy and very sketchy. And it even had men piercing condoms with needles to decrease the condom's effectiveness so that men could catch diseases. Also, it states go to Vaseline Alley, that's in West Hollywood. And that's not a park, but it's a public place in West Hollywood where men meet for sex in their vehicles. And regular arrests happen by the LAPD from men who cruise there. It's telling them go there, right? It tells them to go to Flex Spa, which is a popular gay bathhouse where drugs like crystal meth are highly prevalent, and condoms are hardly used as well. All of the sex there is bareback. And it also tells them to go to any gym in West Hollywood, close quote. The playbook never mentions the heavy drug use in all of these facilities and locations and the crime that often happens. The fact that cruising Cruising parks are also hangout spots for gang members. There's a lot of gangs, and also they're hangout spots for houseless individuals all over Los Angeles who often commit crimes, as many of the men who cruise are stood up by people looking to steal their credit card, their cash, and their phone. All of these places are dangerous locations and youth should never go there. Why is the city directing youth to enter these facilities if it's illegal for youth to be there in the first place? Both Flex and Slammer have an 18 years or older requirement. The playbook understates the legal consequences of a young person's reputation after being arrested at cruising parks. It states, quote, "Cruising for sex in public can be scary, but the thrill of it is why people enjoy it so much." Close quote. The playbook fails to inform youth about the misdemeanor of public nudity or the possibility of being registered as a sex offender, which can hinder their prospects of employment. The LAPD doesn't only routinely arrest gay and bisexual men at Vaseline Alley, but also through undercover investigations at different saunas all around Los Angeles and at parks all around Los Angeles as well, where cruising takes place. Worst of all, the playbook uses the history of criminalization in the US of queer sex, quote, which caused queer people to have to resort to parks, close quote, to meet each other as grounds to justify cruising today. It's basically saying because queer people were criminalized throughout the decades or over the years in the United States, because queer sex was criminalized, this is why queer people have resorted to going to parks, and it essentially justifies cruising as sort of out of the victimhood. It's perfectly fine to do this because we were criminalized, essentially. If they want to make that argument, they can, but they should talk more about the, I guess, homophobia. But at the same time, you know, a YouTuber, for example, can make that argument, but should the city of LA be making that argument? Which also has the LAPD as its representative, who are arresting people and youth. They are arresting youth as well in these parks, right? You know, the city, the Children's Hospital, a public hospital, is the one who published this book using taxpayer money. Is it right for the city to be making these statements? No. Next. Even though the grooming is clear, because of the specificity of cruising locations and through the encouraging and positive language that it describes cruising with, it places the burden on the youth for everything, with phrases like, quote, "You run the risk of getting caught. It is important to remember that public sex can have legal consequences. However, the risk is what makes it hot. It's up to you to decide if you want to take that risk. People find pleasure in the idea that they might get caught, or the idea that someone is watching them." Close quote. Right? This directly influences youth to do it, to take that risk, and it's directly grooming youth. So instead of negatively promoting cruising, it positively promotes it as a fun activity. And with this quote, it also promotes peeping toms, or it promotes looky-loos. What's it called? It's a fetish or it's a kink when people look. So sorry, my phone paused for a little bit, but basically what I'm trying to say is that with that quote, right, when it says that the idea that they might get caught, or the idea that someone is watching them, right, people find pleasure in that. That's a direct quotation. That is promoting the kink of voyeurism on these youth. It's promoting them to be voyeurs. It's promoting them to be exhibitionists. That's another kink, the kink of exhibitionism. But it's also promoting them to encourage voyeurs to watch them, to be around voyeurs, right? It's awful. It also fails to mention that STDs are prevalent at cruising locations, and how cruising locations are breeding grounds for sex addiction, which is a progressive habit and illness. Sex addiction is a disease, and it also doesn't let them know that cruising locations are full of predators, especially since the United States has an STD epidemic crisis with cases of gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, COVID, monkeypox, HIV, meningitis, and many more, expanding everywhere, and particularly in the LA area, with what is known as supergonorrhea and superchlamydia, which are antibiotic-resistant strains of these diseases, thus making cruising a major public health concern. Now, the playbook doesn't talk about any of these things. Those are all my words. Why? Why won't the playbook talk about the billboards that are all over Los Angeles warning people to use condoms? The billboards all over Los Angeles warning people here in LA about supergonorrhea and superchlamydia, antibiotic-resistant strains of chlamydia and gonorrhea, right? It's an epidemic, and it's all over. It's not just in the US. Health clinics all around the country are saying that they have these strains. But no, the playbook fails to mention this completely. In fact, it doesn't talk about anything relating to physical or mental health regarding cruising. Nothing. It further downplays the severity of STIs, sexually transmitted infections, STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, and HIV by stating that, quote, STIs are common and most are curable, and some have no cure. But they are manageable with treatment and through regular checkups with a doctor, like hepatitis B, herpes, HIV, and HPV. There are several options for treatment, close quote. I believe that the phrasing and language in this section downplays the severity of STIs and HIV simply as something that is not that big of a deal if you catch it. That's essentially what it's saying. It's not that big of a deal, you know? You can catch them, it's curable. It says STIs are common and most are curable, right? And and the ones that have no cure, they're manageable with treatment and through regular checkups, right? So this is downplaying it, it's minimizing it. Similarly, it fails to promote sero-sorting or same-status relationships where both partners are HIV positive or both partners aren't HIV positive. It fails to promote that practice of sero-sorting over magnetic or sero-discordant relationships where one partner is positive and the other is not, right? I think this is incredibly wrong of the playbook. The playbook thus undermines the severity of HIV by also stating, quote, HIV status should not affect your sex life, question mark. It also states the disclosing of one's HIV status simply as just something that is helpful rather than something that should be required for a healthy and respectful sexual life. And it doesn't mention it disclosing as a necessity for a healthy sex life relationship where the other sex partner is informed. In addition, the playbook states in the glossary on page 49 that the phrase or abbreviation DDF is stigmatizing. It states, quote, DDF is short for drug and disease free, which stigmatizes those who have had STIs or those currently living with HIV or other STIs. It also stigmatizes those who use drugs, close quote, when in reality, we all know that the phrase DDF is a phrase that's used by people who want to hook up as a way for them to gauge one's HIV or STI status or to ask them if they do any drugs. By stating that this phrase should not be used, the playbook is discouraging disclosure. The playbook also fails to mention an alternative to this phrase, such as asking, what is your status? Or stating one's preference regarding drug use, right? So not only does it say, don't use this word, or it's stigmatizing to use this abbreviation, but it doesn't give any type of other alternative for what you should do when you want to know someone's status or when you want to ask if someone does drugs. And going back to the previous point I made, maybe it wasn't clear to some of you because the language might be a little bit difficult when we're talking about sero-discordant and or magnetic relationships versus sero-sorting or same-status relationships. But basically, I was just saying that instead of prioritizing that people who have, instead of prioritizing relationships of people who have the same status, it doesn't promote that over hooking up with someone who has a different status than you. So I can explain that further if you want. You can put that in the comments. And the next point is the playbook downplays health risks with regard to anal sex among youth, specifically in describing anal issues like fissures, hemorrhoids, itching, and dryness, the playbook states, quote, "Some of these are more common than others, and people can still enjoy anal play if they are experiencing some of these conditions," close quote. It also states, "Some people feel comfortable having penetrative anal play with hemorrhoids, but if you decide to have penetrative play, just remember that it can make things worse. Weigh your options and decide what works best for you. Ultimately, you get to decide what is best for you." So again, we see here that the playbook creators, instead of placing the responsibility of the risk on themselves for directly grooming the youth, and after even glorifying engaging in sex while having medical health issues, you guys, this is what they're doing. They're saying, oh, you have hemorrhoids, oh, you have, issues with your with anal play, like fissures, anal fissures, right? If you have itching and dryness, it's okay, you can still have sex, right? But ultimately you get to decide that. That's what it's telling them, right? This is grooming. And basically what they're doing is they're transferring all of the responsibility on the youth audience of this book in order to limit the liability and the culpability that the playbook creators have. This is what they're doing. And they do this all throughout the book. I've mentioned multiple examples. Next, the playbook promotes the public health crisis through practices that lead to higher rates of STI transmission, such as bareback sex, or sex, bareback sex is sex without the use of condoms, and it downplays the severity of catching and transmitting HIV. It states, quote, "If you maintain an undetectable viral load, there is effectively no way of transmitting HIV to your partner or partners, which means that you can fuck raw if you'd like," close quote. You heard that language, you guys? Do you want me to say that quote again? Quote, "If you maintain an undetectable viral load, there is effectively no way of transmitting HIV to your partner or partners, which means that you can fuck raw if you like." Now, I understand the chances are very slim. I think it's like 99% of the times it's not transmittable, maybe even more, maybe 99.5%. But at the same time, there have been some very limited cases, it's very rare, but there have been some cases of people who were undetectable and yet they still transmitted HIV. Now, maybe we should look this up more, and I guess this is a topic I also have to research more, and I'll say that openly. But I do just want to say that saying that just because you're undetectable and then using the language, this means that you can fuck raw if you'd like, I think that language is inappropriate. It's discouraging condom use. And even though it states on the same page that, quote, "Not everyone taking HIV medicine has an undetectable viral load." So it's not just the point I made before, but it's saying on the very same page, it says a quote. It quotes, right? I'm quoting this. "Not everyone who takes HIV medicine has an undetectable viral load." So, you have to be careful with these situations. And you think most of these youth are going to be careful? No. They have such little life experience. They have not been exposed to a lot of different things. They're just going to go. They're not going to use condoms. The book is telling them. And there's multiple more examples. I'm going to bring them up coming in the next minute. The playbook has a low level of scrutiny with regard to STI and STD transmission, and it promotes methods like the pull-out method and like oral sex without a condom as alternatives in different scenarios that it presents. It also falsely recommends topping still being a safer practice over bottoming as a safer option, and it promotes not using condoms for oral sex by stating, quote, "Use condoms for anal or front hole sex, but go raw for oral." It's telling them to not use a condom for oral sex. Now, there's a specific scenario, and it's saying that to recommend it as a safer option than something else, but it's still telling them right there. It's saying go raw for oral. It also falsely states that to decrease the risk of HIV transmission, one can ejaculate in their partner's mouth instead of their rectum. How is that safe? Right? It's saying this. That's a direct quote. to decrease the risk of HIV transmission, one can ejaculate in their partner's mouth instead of their rectum. It also falsely states that condoms lower, quote, any possibility of STI transmission or pregnancy. That's completely wrong, right? They say condoms lower, quote, any possibility of STI transmission or pregnancy. That is true. That is false. Okay? It doesn't lower any possibility. We know that. You can still catch other STDs. You can catch herpes if you use a condom, right? Condoms break all the time. And it also wrongly states that having sex in well-lit areas is enough of an argument for preventing STI transmission. Specifically on page 46, you can see this yourself, it states that, quote, this is the example I'm using to support this claim. Having sex in well-lit areas is a way to catch any abnormalities like sores or rashes on another person's genitals, close quote. Having sex in a well-lit area is not enough of an argument to prevent STI transmission. So the book has all of these wrong things that it's stating. It further downplays the severity of catching STDs on page 46 by specifically recommending scenarios where people who have STIs and STDs can actively engage in sex, with an entire section on having sex while having STIs. Instead of arguing for long-term or at least temporary abstinence while having an STI, it states, quote, you may think that having an STI marks the end of your sex life. This is simply not true. Even if you have been diagnosed with an STI, you can still maintain a healthy and active sex life, close quote. And it even says, quote, have non-penetrative and penetrative sex while having STIs, close quote. It thus promotes sex in all cases, including when having sexual health conditions. This is grooming, you guys, right? It just says basically have sex all the time. And it leads to the spread of STIs as it elevates having sex over public health. You guys, this playbook is viewing these youth as animals. It's viewing all of us as animals, right? I just want to say that you can laugh at all of this, but in the end, the joke is on you because these are youth that we're talking about. And again, if you found this inappropriate or unbearable, can you imagine the trauma that a youth or adolescent goes through when they hear this, let alone being exposed to it and entering the sex-addicted world of hookup culture that is merely impossible to escape out of? This is the sex industry, you guys, and it's all a money-making machine for porn studios and their affiliates. Just because no money is exchanged at first, it does not mean that it's not the industry, right? They're not necessarily talking about money in this playbook. That doesn't mean it's not the sex industry, right? The book promotes sex toys and certain loops, the purchasing of those. The porn is rampant in hookup culture, and porn companies see the youth as just numbers and clicks to increase their web traffic and to profit from their advertising revenues and through the purchase of memberships on hookup apps, right? This book is promoting hookup apps. You think that youth aren't going to purchase memberships on these apps? Of course they are. Meanwhile, the identities of the youth, their personal information, and all of their data is all being collected and data mined, and then it's sold to third parties without them truly being informed about that. And the hookup apps are making tons of money through advertisements to youth. Hookup apps purposefully hide the option of opting out from having their data given to third parties. For those of you who still don't believe that there's an agenda on youth, the playbook is proof of the agenda. You don't need any more proof than this and any more proof than my video. This alone is enough and should wake you up and open up your eyes. Groomers must be exposed. We should show no tolerance, no mercy, give no second chances on these groomers. I don't care what you say. I don't care if the groomers themselves are victims of trauma. I don't have compassion for them because they are actively choosing to perpetuate the cycle. We have tolerated grooming so much in this country and in this world, and pedophiles and predators are always getting off the hook. That's all, you guys. I'm gonna have more videos to come about the playbook and topics relating to the playbook. Take care.